Hi guys, this is the second video in our tutorial series on how to design a battery bank in our first basic tutorial series. Now, as you can tell, my layout's different from last time. On the right hand side I've got my tray, which is my default tray, which is pinned. This is simply done by selecting window, default tray, and which entities you want up. Now the main important one is outliner. Reason for this is if I select something in this outliner window, I select it here. It allows for you to navigate around Sketchup and select the components you need a lot simpler, and also it allows you to see which groups and components you've got. Now last time we created a component, which is the battery, the replication of this battery, very simple one. Now the difference between a component and a group is if you change one component, all the components of the same name will change. Whereas a group is simply grouped together components and parts and shapes so that they can be moved as one, and therefore everything can be moved a lot easier. So what we're going to do is basically build our shelves today, and that's it, just the shelves. And the way we're going to start this is we're going to create the pattern of batteries and writing out a number of batteries in the way that we want them to be. So for instance, ours wants 7, so we're going to do a bottom row of 4 and an upper row of 3. And this is very simply done because now we have a component, we have a battery which is a component, so we just need to copy and paste these components into SketchUp and put them in the right measurements. So just before I do that, if I select space, get my select tool, just delete all these lines that we used in the construction of the battery, just to make it look a lot neater. Right, so I get space is your select tool. So if we select our battery, if we press M, which is our move tool, we can then move this battery around. Now if we move it to this way, this is the direction we want our pattern to be in, we're moving along the red axis, as you can see on the screen. Now if we tap our control key, we create a copy that which is moving along the red axis. By letting go and type in whichever number you want in, I want 300mm, it then places that battery 300mm away from its original position. So we want 4 of these in the bottom row, so all we can simply do is then write 3 and multiplication sign, which is shift 8, and you create 2 more 300mm away from each other. Very simple and very nice and easy. So we're going to do the same to create our top row. What we're going to do this time is select our select tool again with space, hold your control key down as we select the 3 batteries that we want, move key again, M, and move these 3 up. But we want them to move up along the blue axis. I want them to be copies. So press our control key, and now we have 3 that move up, and I want mine 600mm up. Very simple, done. Now get these back to where they were. Now if I select my select tool again, I can select all my components like so, or I can go to my outliner, select one, hold down my shift key, select the last one, and it selects all the components within that area. If I right click that, I can make a group, I can rename a group, and rename a group batteries. So then if I want to move my batteries, every battery moves. So next what we want to do is we want to start with our shells, and which part of the shells we're going to start with is actually the sheet metal that the battery is going to be on. This is because it's in direct contact and therefore can be directly referenced to the batteries. One other thing we need to know about SketchUp is that we can't put holes in our components after they're made. So we have to compensate for that by putting the holes in the sketch. And that's very simply done. Just put your circles on your sketch and extrude around the circles. Now, so that's what we're going to do to start off with. And of course we want holes because we want nuts and bolts holding this thing into place. So to start off with, I'm going to get my tape measure out. I'm going to measure 100 along and then 50 this way. Now this is simply to create a point where my rectangle is going to start, because I don't want it to be flush up against the battery. I want to give the battery some breathing room from the walls. So then what I'm going to do is select R, which is my rectangle tool. Tape measure, by the way, is T for tape measure. As you can probably tell, there's a pattern going on. So by selecting our rectangle, I know I want 100 on both sides lengthwise, and I want 50 front and back. So simply by putting in my measurements, which I remember from last time, there we have it. Now I want to put my holes in. I want a brace in between all the batteries and on down the edge. So what I'm going to do to achieve this is I'm going to select my line tool, and I'm going to create some reference lines as I did before when we created the battery. And your line tool is L, and when you create a line, it then says that it's going to connect another line to it. But to stop that, to break that break and keep the line tool open, you just simply press L again. And then a midpoint to midpoint, and one last one. So by pressing circle, we get our circle tool. Now we have to decide what size nuts and bolts we're going to use. Personally, I'm going to use M8, which simply means that I need an 8mm diameter hole for them to fit through. To do that, I'm going to click onto my midpoint here, create a circle with a 4 radius, and again so, and I also want to create one here for the cross braces going across. Now to rub things out, to get rid of things, to erase things, we press E and we get our eraser. I'm going to get rid of all these lines that we just created. Now we have 5 holes in between them 2 batteries. Now like last time, we can select all them batteries and we can copy and move them just like we did the batteries. So we can copy and move the holes just like we did the batteries. So if we select them all, and again control, and we want to move them 300, and again we want 3 of them in this direction. So we simply do exactly the same pattern as the battery. As you can see, it's nice, but also we want to go the other side. So what we're going to do again is select all the batteries, or the holes, sorry, and then we're going to go the opposite direction. So our M tool, move, control, 300. So we have all our holes. Now what SketchUp tends to do when you create a sketch is to create a surface alongside it. We don't want a surface, we want a solid, and we want a solid with holes in. So what this means is when we press our P, which is our pad tool, which is to extrude, and we extrude downwards, we have some surfaces there that we don't want, like these hole surfaces that we created. So what we can essentially do is we're going to go down. So mine's going to be a 2mm galvanized sheet metal plate. So quite simply, we press 2 and it goes down 2mm. Pressing our space bar again, We can then select these surfaces and just simply delete them. We'll do that for all 5 rows. And get these done for the final one. Yeah, nice and simple. So now we have our plate.